Hello, 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 and welcome to Mythologica, which is your portal to the mythocosmos. I'm Joanna Gardner, and I'm here today with Stephanie Zajchowski and our special guest, Arthur George, who has a new book out called The Mythology of Wine. Art, would you like to tell us a little bit about your new book?
Sure. It just came out about a week ago. It's called The Mythology of Wine. It talks about the myths relating to wine and grapes and grapevines and winemakers throughout the ancient world. That is Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Egypt, Canaan and Israel, ancient Greece, and also wine in the New Testament and early Christianity. It's about 150 pages long and easy to read. It's not technical. It's based on good scholarship, but I decided not to have a bunch of footnotes and stuff. It's very easy. It has 30 illustrations and they're really interesting. And it's not expensive. The paperback's only $14.99. The ebook is $9.99. And it's available on Amazon and all the other online sellers. I should mention with the ebook has really good color illustrations. They come out really well. The paperback has the traditional black and white, and they come out pretty well too, but if you're really into the illustrations, you might want to go for the ebook. And the other thing with the ebook is that, at least on Kindle, if you want to search for terms and do word searches, you can do that on the ebook. So that's a really good feature.
Well, tell us how you happen to get interested in myth and wine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been involved with myth for like 20 years. I've studied that for a long time and written other books about mythology. And so I've always had that. And at the same time, I've always been a wine enthusiast, ever since my heavy drinking days in college. And I've learned more and more about wine as I went along. And then when I moved to California a few years ago, I actually became a winemaker, and I make wine now for like 5 years. And so these two interests in wine and winemaking on the one hand, and mythology on the other, just naturally fell together, considering that there's wine mythology out there. So that was a natural topic for me to write about, since I know a lot about it to begin with. And
Nice. Well, can you share with us a little bit about how wine became linked with myth and religion in the ancient world?
The ancient peoples didn't know how fermentation worked or what alcohol was. So when people drank wine, they thought that it was the divine forces at work. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. So and of course, deities were behind all that, right? And so the deities got involved, and since there were deities, naturally myths evolved because of that. And the gods themselves, of course, were thought to drink wine, and therefore people were making offerings of wine to the gods. And even Yahweh, the Israelites' God, was in part a wine god, and he was responsible. Israel was a whole vineyard, and he was ultimately responsible for it, although the Israelites were supposed to take good care of it. And so wine offerings were made even to him every day. It was about a quart of wine at the temple. So
I had no idea. That's awesome. Is there, do you have any other tidbits, maybe one more tidbit you could share from the book that people could talk about at their next virtual cocktail gathering?
Well, maybe, one cool thing, especially in Egypt, was that wine was part of burials and entombments. And that's because grapevines in particular, have a yearly cycle of death and rebirth. And so that was sort of evidence of the divinity in wine, and therefore it was associated with rebirth. So if you wanted to get into the afterlife, wine helped. So like with Egypt's pharaohs, jugs of wine were put into the tomb together with the pharaoh. And then as things developed, they started using less actual wine and painting grapevines on the ceiling and the walls of the temples, because that was deemed just as effective for that purpose. And so you get these beautiful representations in some of the tombs of these grapevines all over the place. It's really interesting imagery.
Kind of like your background right now, right?
Oh yeah, I shouldn't. Glad you mentioned it. Yeah, the Egyptians used an overhead trellising system because it helped protect the grapes from the scorching sun, because it's really hot in Egypt. Of course, it's not really ideal for growing grapevines. So they did that, and also shaded the workers when they were harvesting. So in my background here, these are actual vines from Egypt these days. And you can see that they still have this overhead trellising system. It's not in all the vineyards, but a lot of the vineyards still have this. And it's the same now as it was, 3,000 years ago.
Very cool. Well, I, for one, cannot wait to read the book. And I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been very fun talking with you. And the book is available at pretty much all bookstores, or where can people
It'll
find
be some bookstores, but it's a lot easier to get it online. It's best price, reliable.
the Mythology
And of
of
course, you
Wine,
can get the ebook
right?
online. You can't do the ebook in bookstores.
Right,
So.
right. Well, thank you again, Art. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Soon.
To receive the Mythologica email in your inbox each month, email us at mythologica@fatesandgraces.com or visit myth2021.com and click Mythologica and then subscribe. Thank you for joining us.